I recently sat down and rewatched one of my favorite movies, Whiplash, for what seemed like the 100th time. But this time I did it with a purpose. I was looking for a specific moment. Some call it an Oscar moment. The moment where J.K. Simmons transcends the character of Terrence Fletcher into something beyond anything else any other actor accomplished that year. And I got to it, the first rehearsal, or as many of us call it, the not quite my tempo scene. Andrew sits behind the drums, hands shaking already before the session even started. Fletcher walks into the room and the whole band freezes, because Fletcher demands ultimate respect when he enters a room. Then Fletcher does something I didn't quite expect the first time I saw the movie. His voice turns warm, soft, almost gentle. He tells Andrew to have fun, not to worry about the numbers, not to worry about what the other guys are thinking.
You're here for a reason.
Two things hit me. The first was exactly what I was hoping for. I thought, good God, that's the most terrifying performance I've ever seen. But I couldn't shake a second feeling too, that I just watched 3 minutes that explained the entire rest of the movie before it even really begun. That this scene was doing something I couldn't immediately name. Something past acting, past yelling, past the slap that everyone remembers when they talk about Whiplash. So the question is, well, why? How? How does one rehearsal, one question, one slap carry an entire Academy Award? Why does the Academy still put this scene on their Instagram years later like clockwork? Why do people who have never finished the movie know the line, "Not quite my tempo," the same way people know the iconic Joker, "Why so serious" line? I think it starts with motivation. Fletcher tells the audience he's been looking for the next Charlie Parker. That's a story he's told himself so many times it's become religion. He believes comfort is poison, and praises how greatness dies quietly in a practice room. Later in the movie, he says there's no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. And you can hear it in Simmons' delivery that he means it in a way a priest means a creed. Director Damien Chazelle isn't winking to the camera, nor is this a performance of cruelty for its own sake. The cruelty is a curriculum, and Andrew is here for a simpler and more dangerous reason. He wants to be great so badly that he'll accept any definition of greatness he's handed. That hunger is the open door, and Fletcher spends the whole scene walking through it. These two men are in the same room, and they're already in two different movies. Andrew thinks he's been chosen, but to Fletcher, he's just found material. Watch that opening stretch again with that in mind. Simmons' body language is pure invitation. He crouches, lowers his center of gravity, matches Andrew's eyeline. A lot of screen villains enter a room already inflated. Simmons shrinks and makes himself smaller so Andrew will lean in. That's the first move of an abuser who knows his craft. It starts with the feeling of being selective. Have fun. Relax. You're here for a reason. Every one of those lines is bait, and the sick genius of Simmons' choices is that he plays them as if they're true. A lesser performance would load those lines with menace so the audience stays protected, so you clock the threat early and brace for it. But Simmons refuses you that safety. He lets the warmth feel real enough that when the turn comes, it arrives like weather you didn't see on the horizon. Andrew starts playing. Fletcher stops him, leans in, and asks one question.
You rushing or were you dragging?
Listen to how Simmons asks it. There's curiosity in it, almost scholarship. He sounds like a man who simply wants precise information. No raised voice, no flexed jaw, no telegraph of a hit. In most threat scenes, the actor tips the table early. The breath changes, the eyes harden, and the audience gets a half second of armor before the blow lands. Simmons gives you none of that. He asks the questions as if the answer might still save the boy in front of him. Andrew says,
I don't know.
The answer is honest, maybe the most honest line in the movie. Andrew is 19, his nervous system is flooded. He's sitting in front of a man the entire studio treats like a god. He can't hear his own hands. Of course he doesn't know. The tragic part is that honesty is the wrong currency in Fletcher's room. The slap lands hard enough to reorganize the air. And this is the part where most conversations about the scene stop. People remember the slap. It's the clip, the meme. But the slap is punctuation. The Oscar is what Simmons does in the half second after it. He doesn't stay big, he doesn't keep rising. He steps back. His face arranges into something that looks close to wounded. Andrew stops being the person who was just struck and becomes the person who forced Fletcher's hand. The disappointment. The one who failed a test he didn't even know he was taking. You can watch the shame move through Miles Teller's face in real time. He's embarrassed in front of Fletcher more than he gets angry at him. That's a darker victory than pain. Pain makes you hate the person who hit you. Shame is worse. It gets you doing their work for them. This is an actor taking control of a script. The page can hand an actor the slap, the line, but it can't hand him the decision to look personally betrayed by a teenager telling the truth. That choice tells you everything about how completely Simmons understands Fletcher. In this moment, Fletcher experiences himself as a teacher failed by a student, rather than the monster. Control is a feeling both characters are fighting for. and it's a feeling Simmons articulates without ever needing to announce it. He's in total command of the temperature of the room. Every shift is chosen, every drop in volume is a blade. When he threatens to gut Andrew like a pig if he sabotages the band, the words are barbaric, and the delivery is almost instructional, like he's reading from a handbook. Then he cycles. Start counting. Tenderness again, something like father energy. The room exhales a fraction of an inch. Andrew clings to the rope. In my fucking time. The rope disappears. Simmons is suddenly huge, inches from Andrew's face, the full body behind the words. The slap is finite. Whatever comes next from Fletcher isn't. Warmth, disappointment, violence, instruction, and stillness. Simmons builds a whole house and keeps walking you into different rooms without ever letting you see him reach for a doorknob. That's why the fear compounds. Andrew stops being a kid who had a bad entrance and becomes, fundamentally, a kid who isn't quite right. Fletcher installs that idea with 4 words and a soft voice, and it'll live in Andrew longer than the red mark on his face. Then Andrew cries. He doesn't soften, doesn't show guilt, doesn't break the mask to wink at the audience. He leans closer, studies the tears the way a person studies an unexpected result on a slide.
Oh, my dear God. Are you one of those single-tier people?
There's fascination in it, almost delight at the data. Screaming is human. Anybody in a traffic jam understands screaming. This is colder. He's interested in the product he's made. There's a flicker across Simmons' face that sits uncomfortably close to pride. He did this. The plant under pressure bent exactly as predicted. And because Miles Teller plays the crying without vanity, the experiment reads as complete. One man produced a feeling in another man, then stuck around long enough to classify it. Then Fletcher leaves. He doesn't storm out, doesn't grandstand for the band, doesn't milk the silence. He walks, already finished with the interaction, already halfway into the next problem in his day. That exit might be the most accurate detail in the whole scene. The person who hurts you rarely needs to watch you clean it up. The damage already transferred to your nervous system. Your night is about them now, and they moved on. So here's the question the scene has been asking underneath the plot question. Why this question? Why rushing or dragging? Fletcher isn't collecting musical information. If tempo were the point, he could have counted Andrew off again in seconds and solved it. The question is a closed maze dressed up as a door. Say rushing and get punished for carelessness. Say dragging and get punished for weakness. Say you don't know and get punished for failing to know. Every answer feeds the same machine. Andrew's being enrolled here, not evaluated. Simmons plays that enrollment with unnerving patience. He lets Andrew believe there's a correct answer. Belief makes a person reach. Reaching makes them exposed, and exposure is exactly what Fletcher needs. The slap only works if Andrew is still playing. The moment Andrew quits the game, Fletcher loses the room. So every emotional shift in that scene is doing the same job. Keep him in the game. Guessing which version of Fletcher is real. Chasing a standard that moves every time he gets close. Simmons gives the pattern a face, a voice, a posture, a tempo. Artists gets Oscars for range. Occasionally they get them for recognition, for making a room full of strangers go quiet, because the invention on screen is suddenly autobiographical. There's nothing but the placement of a crouch, the patience of a question, the decision to look wounded after throwing the strike. Simmons builds a man who is intimate and annihilating in the same breath. A man who can father you and unmake you, without ever dropping the story that this is for your own good. Holding charm and rage in the same body so cleanly that the audience can't separate them until they've already trusted the wrong one. That's rare. Look, winning an Oscar is an incredible achievement. It's also, in the end, an award. What J.K. Simmons accomplishes in this scene sits past that night they handed him the statue. He takes a supporting role that could have been a loud cartoon and turns it into a finished psychology. He makes Fletcher's worst ideas sound like discipline, and violence feel like teaching. He gets you to understand how a gifted kid ends up grateful to the person dismantling him. The scene ends on tears and an empty path out of the room. What stays is the question, rushing or dragging. You can feel yourself still trying, years after the light comes up, to produce the answer that would have been allowed. But there isn't one. There was only the maze, the man who poured the walls, and the ugly genius of a performance that can thank you for the tour. J.K. Simmons won Best Supporting Actor for more than just screaming at a drummer. He won it for showing how a person gets broken by someone who never stops calling the breaking love. And that's why, a decade later, this is still one of the greatest scenes I've ever watched.